First, the USDA's Justice for All non-discriminatory statement, which simply states that all persons must be treated equally without regard to their race, color, national origin, sex, religious creed, disability, age, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity, and that our institution provides an inclusive space for all. For more information on the And Justice for All statement, please visit the USDA's website.
Welcome to Trenton, New Jersey. My name is Christina. I am a project manager with ISLES. I manage all of our farm to school projects, which means I help kids connect to healthy food in schools, either through school gardens or cooking classes. And today is going to be one of our first virtual kind of hybrid garden and cooking classes. So the organization I work with is called ISLES. We are a community development and environmental nonprofit based in Trenton, New Jersey. And where I am right now is our demonstration garden. So this garden we either use for production to sell produce at our Greenwood Ave Farmers Market, or we use it as a training garden to teach new community gardeners how to grow food so that they can expand gardening throughout the city of Trenton. And today we are learning all about apples. So you might think that it is October, and in October we don't really think about gardening very much because it's getting a little bit colder, there's not as much sunlight, but as I hope that you'll see in our garden in Trenton, it's still thriving. And what I'm standing next to right now is an apple tree. And you might be a little bit confused because there are no apples on our apple tree right now. And that is because one of the things that's really difficult about farming and gardening is you have a lot of other insects and animals that like to eat the same things that we do. So ours unfortunately got eaten by a lot of squirrels, and so there's not many apples on here. And that's something that anyone running an apple orchard knows, that they're gonna have to compete with some of the animals. So they sometimes get creative in getting some of those animals away from their crops. So we have our apple tree. I want to show you some of the other things in our garden so you can see everything that's growing and how it's actually really thriving right now. So follow me. Let's see, anyone in our audience, obviously I can't hear you, but if anyone in our audience knows what this is, and we can get a close-up of the leaves maybe, you can comment in the discussion. Let's see if I can find one. Oh, so this isn't ready yet, but that's what it is. I'll give you 2 seconds. This is actually a fig tree, and figs usually grow in the Mediterranean climate, but we are able to grow them in New Jersey. We wrap it up in the winter and keep it really warm, and then in the spring it'll grow. So we have to protect it a little bit from the winter here in New Jersey. I'm going to put this fig right on the ground. I'm sure one of our squirrel friends would love it, and I'm going to have you follow me this way. Another great thing that we can grow in New Jersey is grapes, and I'm going to show you. We have a bunch of grapes over here, and I'm gonna pick them because I think we'll put them in our parfait later. There we go. So we have a beautiful bunch of grapes. All right, come with me this way because there's so much more to see. So you can see over here, this is part of our training garden. And our training garden, our gardeners have a lot growing right now. So this gardener has a ton of kale. They have some collards growing. What else? They have beautiful flowers, some zinnias. And we even have a few peppers. All right, and then I'll show you one more thing before we go over and make a recipe with apples, and I tell you a little bit more about apples. So, we'll come this way. We have another wonderful fruit that's still thriving in New Jersey in the fall. These are golden raspberries, and I'll pick a few of these to stick in our recipe. Alright, so I think we should go and get started on preparing a recipe, and I'll tell you a little bit more about apples. So, I think some of you may have received a recipe already. We are making what I'm calling an apple pie parfait. And a parfait usually consists of either ice cream or yogurt layered with fruit, and sometimes with dessert foods. But we're making a much healthier snack today. We are making it with apples. We're making a no-cook version, so it's a really easy snack for you to make, and I think you could even use it as something that you can have for breakfast as well. So I have this type of apple. Today I'm using a honey crisp apple. There are actually 7,500 different varieties of apples, and they all taste a little bit different, and they're all used for different things. So honey crisp apples are excellent for eating raw. There are certain apples that are better for making things like pie or applesauce, and then there are apples that are used for sometimes to sweeten foods, and then you can use apples for cider. So depending on what you want to do, you choose your apple varieties, and that takes a little bit of research to learn about. So I'm going to start making my parfait. The first thing I'm going to do is chop up this apple. I'm using my knife skills, so when I'm working with a knife, I want to make sure my index finger and my thumb are right near on the blade. The rest of my fingers are underneath, and that's going to give me a lot of control. I know some of us like to put our finger out, and it's actually very easy to slip that way, so I'm going to try to use it just like this. And of course, I'm watching where my fingers are because I don't want to cut them, and I'm going to cut into my apple. And this recipe that I sent you, or that was that's part of that we're doing today, is sorry, I lost my train of thought because I'm focused very much on not cutting my fingers off. But this is a really easy recipe that you can make at home. It's really healthy. Apples are an excellent source of fiber, so they help with your digestion. They help you feel really full. And they also help you wake up. So if you're ever feeling a little bit tired in the afternoon, I know that happens with me all the time, eating something like an apple is actually going to keep you full. It's going to keep you awake much better than any type of candy would. Candy's going to give you a quick sugar rush, and then you're going to kind of crash. But an apple will give you that sustained energy. So this is an excellent midday snack that we're making. And so one interesting thing about apples is that you don't plant an apple tree from the seed. You actually use a technique called grafting. So apple trees, you'll actually take a piece of the apple tree, and through a technique called grafting, which involves adhering the branch to the tree, that's how you're creating a new tree. If I planted one of these apple seeds, let me see if I can find one to show you. That one's kind of cut in half. But if I planted one of these, I would get a tree, but I wouldn't get these type of apple. I would get a wild apple tree. So that's not really what I'm going for. All right, let's chop this up. So this is the first step in our recipe, is chopping up an apple. This recipe makes 2 servings, so it's for you and a friend, or you and someone in your family to make. If you wanted to just make it for yourself, you would just cut that recipe in half. So I already have 1 apple chopped up in the bowl. I'm chopping up my second apple. And I'm probably not going to use the whole thing, because looking at it, I can tell I have plenty for 2 already, so you can kind of judge. The recipe says 2 apples, but you might end up leaving out a quarter, and that's perfectly fine, because you get to be creative when you're making things for yourself. So I'm going to throw my apple into this bowl, and you'll notice that sometimes when you cut up an apple, it starts to turn brown. That's a process called oxidation. It's perfectly normal. It doesn't mean it's not safe to eat, but if you want to prevent that, because it does look a little bit better when it's not brown, you're going to squeeze some lemon juice over it. So I have my half of a lemon. I put it in here. This is my juice mixer, and I'm going to squeeze this lemon juice over it. Okay, and it's also going to add a little bit of flavor. It's going to make it a little tangy and a little bit more sour. So I'll mix that up, and then I want to give my food some flavor. And we call this the apple pie parfait because we are all eating apple pie in the fall. And so I'm going to use spices that are used in apple pie. I'm going to use nutmeg, and you can measure it precisely, but I like to just kind of sprinkle it on and see. I can see with my eyes how much I need. All right, so we have our nutmeg. Then I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Perfect. And I'm going to mix those up until everything is coated evenly. And you'll notice I didn't add any sugar to this. Honeycrisp apples especially are really sweet, and I love sweet food, but I'm trying not to eat too much added sugar because added sugar is not really good for me. It can lead to a lot of health problems if I'm eating too much of it. Apples are naturally sweet, and I really don't think I need them. If you wanted, you can actually take these apples and microwave them for about a minute, and that would give it more of an apple pie texture because they would be warm, but you don't really need to do that. I was really trying to make something that's quick, and that will save us a lot of time. So, we have our apples, and now I want to add some of my other things to it. So, I have this fruit. This is a pomegranate if you've never seen it before. When I cut my pomegranate open, it looks like this. Pomegranate's also really high in a lot of vitamins, really good for you. And I have my pomegranate in a bowl, and it looks just like this. So, we have our pomegranate, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that to my apples. And this is about 1 pomegranate in this bowl, so I added about half of it. Mix that up. If you didn't have pomegranate, they're not always available in the stores. They're usually available in October and November. That's when it's the best time to buy them. And then after that, you don't see them as much. You can use any other fruit. So you can use, I'm actually going to throw in at some point some of these raspberries. You can use grapes. You can even use dried fruit. Dried cranberries, I think, would go really well because the apples are very sweet and the cranberries are kind of tart. The other thing I'll add is a little bit of pecans. Again, you don't need to use these. Pecans are an excellent source of omega-3 fatty acids, which are really good for your brain health. They're also an excellent source of protein. If you don't like pecans, or you can't access them, or you just have a nut allergy or something like that, you can absolutely leave these out. You can substitute them with other things, like sunflower seeds would be an excellent source. So we have our pecans. You can choose to chop them up or break them up. I'm probably just going to add them in my parfait. So we're going to take our parfait cup. Usually I use a clear glass cup because parfaits have layers to them, but in this case, you can use anything you want. You can mix it all together. You don't have to do it like this. And as I am looking outside, I realized that I didn't grab my yogurt from the fridge because as I was preparing, the yogurt, I didn't want to sit in the sun. If yogurt's sitting in the sun, especially any dairy product, it can make you really sick, so I stuck it in the fridge and I didn't bring it out. But that's okay because we can make a parfait without that. It's not necessary. I think in the video, the recipe I sent you, I said use vanilla yogurt. You can use any type you want, and really I kind of prefer plain yogurt because I can add a little bit of honey to it. So here at Isles, we have several beehives that we take care of, and they produce honey, and so we have some honey available. It's at the Trenton Farmers Market. Apples are also available at the Trenton Farmers Market, so you should definitely take a visit there if you're nearby and get some of these local favorites. So we have our parfait. The first thing I'm going to do is put a little bit of our apple and pomegranate mixture. If I had my yogurt outside, I would add a layer of yogurt. Then I would put my apples in. Then I would add my pecans right here so you can see it. perfect. Then I would add another layer of yogurt, some more apples and pecans, or more apples and pomegranates, sorry. Another layer of pecans. And then I would top it with another layer of yogurt, sprinkle a little bit of granola on top. Again, you don't need this. You can add anything you want. You can add a little bit of cereal if you'd like. You can leave it out completely, not necessary, but I think this adds a nice crunch and a little bit of sweetness to it. You can add pumpkin seeds, and then I want to make it look nice. Oh, I wanted to add my fresh fruits that I picked, so I'll add some of these raspberries, some grapes, and I wanted to show you with this recipe you can get really creative, so you don't need to stick to what I put in. You can use any fruits that you would like, especially use your favorite ones, because those are the ones that are going to make you want to eat it. I'll stick them in, and then I have these beautiful, these are called nasturtiums, and they're actually edible flowers, and I'm going to make mine look very pretty with my edible flower, and I have a fresh cinnamon stick, so we'll stick that in with my spoon, and there you go. There is a beautiful snack that you can eat, in between meals if you're feeling hungry. It also makes an excellent breakfast. Thank you so much for joining me.